Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. My name is Jim, and this podcast is sponsored by NFLDraftFanatics.com. Today, we are going to talk about top 50 players as draft boards exist on October 9th. And I'd like to give a shout out to Broshmo, shout out to the 33rd team, shout out to Dean Kindig. I have a lot of draft boards in front of me, and I'm going to sprinkle a lot of different draft grades into one podcast. Hopefully this lasts maybe 15 minutes. But let's talk about the New York Giants, what the team needs are, and how the NFL Draft Fanatics simulator works. So to do a top 50 player board, I'm going to pick the Giants, and I'm going to do this thing called the second round challenge. And a second round challenge is 10 unique 2-round drafts. And the simulator is going to go ahead and launch. And right at the top of the list, to me, the Giants need quarterbacks. The question would be, which of the quarterbacks do you like the best? So for the Giants, I am going, if you notice right now, Cameron Ward is number 9. I'm going to go ahead and draft Cameron Ward. Now, round 2, I think the Giants need offensive linemen. So as we're going through here, I'll talk about some of the offensive linemen that would need to be discussed for round 2. So among the offensive linemen that I'm seeing in top 50, Wyatt Millam from West Virginia. Okay, so that was 1 2-round draft that we did right there. We're about to do 9 more of these. So if you remember, Cam Ward was number 9 the last time I picked him. He's moved up to 7. I'm going to pick Cameron Ward again. He's currently number 7. I will pick him. Okay, so what other offensive linemen are people talking about in the top 50? So other offensive linemen that you would want to talk about would include Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. Okay, we're going to keep going through. We definitely have a lot of offensive linemen to discuss in round 2. There's going to be a sweet spot at the end of round 1 and beginning of round 2 for offensive linemen. Is what people like Dane Brugler and Kyle Krabs from 33rd team. There's a bunch of people that are talking about look for offensive linemen late in round 1, beginning of round 2. Okay, so we're going back to the Giants. You notice Cameron Ward has moved from 7 to 6. So each time I pick him, he moves up the draft board a little bit. Okay, so this is a dynamic mock draft simulator. So the more Giants fans pick a specific quarterback, the more likely that player is to move up. Okay. Other offensive linemen in the top 50, Jonas Savanea. So I'm looking at 4 different draft boards, and no matter which draft board I look at, Savanea is a offensive lineman in the top 50. I believe there's tackle guard flexibility there. So that's a player to consider as well. Okay. And then we look, so Cameron Ward has moved up to 4 at this point. Okay. So each time I go through, I'm picking Ward, and you're seeing him move up the Giants draft board. Okay. More offensive linemen to talk about. Cam Williams, the tackle from Texas, top 50 player in round 2. And one of the advantages to Williams is that he may be a more natural tackle than even Kelvin Banks, who some people are suggesting will move inside to guard. So there is some method to what I'm trying to communicate here. Okay, so Ward, he's number 4. And at this point, that was the 5th of 10 2-round drafts that represent what's known as a second-round challenge. And more offensive linemen to talk about. Guard Donovan Jackson from Ohio State as a top 50 player. And one of the players I was looking at was Tyler Booker, but the simulator actually has Booker going earlier So let me also point out what a second round challenge is going to do. So you can see that Ward is still 4 on the Giants board. Will Campbell, Emory Jones, and Shedeur Sanders are ahead of him. So I'm going to continue picking Ward until I can get him into the top 2. Okay, and then if we look, every player I've taken, so Willem, Ursary, Savanea, Cam Williams, Donovan Jackson, Isaiah Bond, or I haven't taken Bond. So Donovan Jackson was my last second-round pick. The simulator makes sure they're off the board in a second-round challenge before my next second round. So it's definitely forcing, the simulator is programmed to force my prior second-round picks to be taken before me, okay? And the player I was looking for, see, Tyler Booker right now is going to Cleveland in round 1, and that's why I'm not seeing him in round 2. So that was one of the players I was looking at. Another player, and I believe Kyle Krabs gave a shout out to him on a podcast earlier today, Tate Ratledge from Georgia. While he's hurt right now, he is likely going to be going either round 1 or very early round 2. This might be a stronger guard class than tackle class. My opinion is that the Giants need both. Okay, you can see Cameron Ward finally got to the number 1 spot. Shedeur Sanders has fallen to the 4th. The next player I'm going to pick is Jalen Milroe. He's currently 6th on the Giants board. I'm picking him in round 1. This is my 7th of 10 2-round drafts, and I'm doing this part of a second-round challenge. And let's look for more offensive linemen to talk about. So I'm checking a couple boards. Josh Connerly, Oregon, right here. So he's 81 at the time I picked him. So let's remember 81 as I finish out the demo. And Connerly will be a lot higher than 81 when we go to check the Giants player board at the end of this. Okay, so Milroe went from 6 to 5. I'm going to pick him again. And the power of this simulator is that the players that people pick when they do a mock draft move up the draft board. So finally Booker is available. That is definitely a player that I think would be high on the Giants board. And you notice as soon as he's available, so the Giants right now are picking 38th. And you notice as soon as he's available, he's actually at the top of the Giants draft card. Let me rephrase that. He was the number 1 offensive lineman. But if you were to look at all of these players ranked above him, if he's there in round 2, he has tackle guard flexibility. I do think at the NFL level he'll be a guard, but that would be a really good early second-round pick for the Giants. Okay. And then Milroe, I believe he was 5 last time. He's 5 this time. So you can see also that Cameron Ward, who was at 1, has fallen to 2. So if I skip picking Ward, his value does drop a little bit, and that was why that part of the board moved. Okay, so Green, Miller, Malman. I'm looking for anybody that would be in the top 50. We've already talked about Wyatt Millum. Savanea, we've talked about. Josh Simmons. I don't know if we've talked about Josh Simmons from Ohio State yet. So Josh Simmons from Ohio State, he's currently 659. I'm going to pick him in round 2. So you're going to see that Simmons will have moved up as well. So Josh Simmons and Josh Connerly are 2 players we want to look at as soon as I finish doing the second round challenge. Okay, so now you can see the top of the Giants draft board is Cameron Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe. Okay, so all that's happened from me doing the second round challenge. So who else would the Giants possibly consider in round 1? So you can see Emory Jones and Will Campbell sitting at the top. Is there another player? I'll give a shout out to Travis Hunter. He might be the number one player in the country. So would the Giants put Travis Hunter on the opposite side from Malik Neighbors? So I'm going to pick Hunter there. That's more of a fun pick. And the reason I did that is I also want to give a shout out to a possible second round quarterback. And that's Garrett Nussmeier. Okay. So could you target Nussmeier in round 2 and pick a different position in round 1? I wanted to put that scenario out there. Okay, so the second round challenge finishes. I just did 10 two-round drafts for the New York Giants. Okay, so we can see Cameron Ward, Wyatt Millum. We can see Ariante Ursary, Jonas Savanea, Cam Williams, the offensive tackle from Texas, Donovan Jackson, the guard from Ohio State, Tate Ratledge, the guard from Georgia, Josh Connerly, offensive tackle from Oregon. We saw me take Jalen Milroe in round 1, Tyler Booker in round 2, Josh Simmons in round 2, Travis Hunter in round 1, and Garrett Nussmeier in round 2. Okay, I mentioned about Simmons and Connerly. So let's look up the Joshes. So on this simulator, if you go to the team needs section of the website and you find the New York Giants, what makes NFLDraftFanatics.com unique, every team has a unique player list. It's the same list of players, they're just in different orders. So if we look at the Joshes, Josh Connerly and Josh Simmons, so you can see Connerly and Simmons. So I believe Simmons, at the time I picked him, was 600 something. He moved up to 79. Connerly was in the 70s and he moved up to 61. So if other people agree with me that they should be second round picks, if you pick them in the second round as well, you will see them move up even higher. So with the way you saw, like even for me to move Cameron Ward up, I think I had to pick Ward about 7 times to get him to go to the top spot. So in round 1, it's a steep penalty. To get somebody to go to the top, you're going to need to do somewhere between 7 and 30 mock drafts of the same player in round 1 to get him to go to the top of the team's draft board. That is by design. That's the fanatic that we're looking for. Okay, in round 2, it won't be as severe. And then by the time you get to rounds 3 through 7, 1 or 2 mock drafts should put somebody at the top of the round 3 board or the top of the round 4 board. So it gives fans a lot of control and it adds a significant amount of randomness to the mock draft experience, especially in rounds 3 through 7, which was how the algorithm was designed. So my name is Jim. This is the Mrs. R Relevant podcast, sponsored by NFLDraftFanatics.com. You can follow me on X at NFL Draft Fanatic. There is no I in Fanatic on my Twitter. Okay. You can also add comments on YouTube. If you have a player board and you want me to implement it, or you want to join me on a podcast to implement it and talk about the players, I'm happy to do so. So this has been the Mrs. R Relevant podcast. Remember, every day is draft day if you have the right attitude. Thank you very much for watching. And there will be more content on this channel to show how to set up other teams' player boards and talk about other players who are in the top 50. Thank you very much.